Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel for what will be probably, I'm just going to unplug all this and put this to the side, my last video for a little while. Uni's starting up again and I really want to put my best foot forward for that, so videos become a lot more sporadic, although to be honest, they're already pretty damn sporadic. Either way, it's neither here nor there, let's get into today's video. So, I did a collection video a while ago that covered Thomas, Birdie, Neil, Mike, and the Troublesome Truck. So today I'm going to do something in a similar vein. It's going to take a while because there's a lot to show. Today I'll be looking at Edward, Henry, Gordon, and James. Now, I have a lot of these, and like I said in the previous one of these, I'm not the kind of guy who's going to just line them up and tell you what they are. I was going to do that, but I decided, you know what, I still hate that, so we're not doing that. Move that across. So let's jump right into the video with an item you've not seen before, at least in this form, a 1992 Edward. Zoom in a bit on him. Try to get the good range. Okay, that'll do. So, this is my custom 1992 Edward. It sadly was the painted eye version, but you know I don't care. His face is a bit dirty. I'm not the best painter in the world, I'll never pretend to be. I did an okay job on this. I mean, the tender's a bit worse for wear, but at the end of the day, you're seeing it from this perspective, so I'm not that fussed. But something you haven't seen is what I plan to do with him. Because, now this may be considered sacrilege, but putting it lightly, this is what I'm going to do to him. Yes, I'm putting plastic coal on a 1992 version 1, version 3, depending on if you want to use my classification or the usual classification system, Edward. Why? I don't know. I kind of just wanted to. It's my Edward. I'll do what I want. This was the one that got water damaged. I mean, don't get me wrong. I would have liked to have kept this original if it wasn't in such poor condition already. But, you know, if I'm going to do a custom of it, I'm going to do a custom on my terms. And I love how this looks. Moving on, we have a sort of 1992 Edward. I picked this up in the States a while ago. The front part is, this is a V3/V7. Staples. The tender is just a 1992 V1 with no dates on the wheels, but with 1994 style magnets. Either way, this is a really cool Edward. I picked them up mainly just to have a 1992 in original condition. I'll probably buy another one at some point. Beveled funnel versions are kind of cool. Either way, really nice to have. Moving on. Next up is, I believe I have this classed as a V2 or a V3 1994. I'll have the full list below if you want to check out. This is a 1994 with the weird large pupil variation. I've only ever seen this on Gordon and Edward, so I'm not quite sure if it's across the entire range, but it is quite bizarre. Either way, 2 characters is enough for me to consider it a larger variation. Picked this up in Australia. In fact, I think from now on out, apart from one Edward, all of these were picked up in Australia by the main seller, well, the big seller, which is I think it's Thomas Train Exchange. He was selling it for $24, which is ridiculously low. I mean, this is a pretty rare variation. I only see a couple of these show up. He sold it to me with a 97 tender. However, over time, I actually have been able to pick up this. This is a 1994 tender that matches in terms of both. Pretty sure it matches in terms of date size and every single other facet. So it's nice to have a complete 94. Moving on, we have a 1995, a V2, I believe. Oh no, V1. It's just your traditional 1995. So there's 1994 wheels. It's got 1990 but it's got the larger magnets. Mine's in okay condition. I think this was the other one I picked up from the States. It was in a lot that I think I paid $40 for, when all was said and done. It included a bunch of really weird ones. A 94, a 95 Thomas, a 95 Edward, some 96s, and actually something that you'll see shortly, which is a weird variant of Henry. Either way, really cool. After this part, I'll also actually get my variants guide up so I know exactly what I'm fucking saying. Moving on, we have this rather ragged but somewhat rare Edward. So, condition's okay, nothing amazing. The tender, well, let's just leave it at that. Shredded, honestly. This other side's not too bad. I picked this up from someone local in the place where I used to live. 1996 wheels, so this is a somewhat rarer variation of Edward. Either way, I'm really happy to have it. Condition's alright on it. Just a really cool item to have. Next up is just a normal 1996 V2, I believe. Your standard funnels, your smaller magnets. Most of my Edwards are complete sets. I mean, I don't think any are happier that are mismatched apart from the 1992. That's just because I tend to buy these complete. It's very rare that I'll buy just the front part. When I was starting out though, I ended up buying a part from someone called Miss Thomas Queen, I believe. From the about $10, $11 for a 19. It may not even been her. $10, $11 for a 1999 front part. No tender, so I had to make do. But yeah, I mean, I just dealt with it. Eventually, I did actually get a 99, which is coming up soon. But next up, we have this, a 1997 Edward in very good condition. Quite like the 97, but you know, I sort of don't have the softest of spots for the earlier stuff. I think their faces look a bit off. Apart from the original 1992s. I think the real shit starts to happen when we get into these. This is a 1999. Tender's a bit worn, but no matter. This, I think, is the best version of Edward ever made, apart from potentially the V1, V3 that I previously mentioned. Yep, 99. Really cool. This I traded for way too much stuff, but this is a very, very nice condition Edward from 2001. Like, it's damn near perfect. Love it, but I want to move on from it because I always remember how much of a bad deal that was. Shit. Well, ignore that. I have two of these Edwards. The other one's in a box somewhere, and I can't find it. Well, I don't really know where it is, to be honest. But this is 2008 or later one, because it's got the IOO code. Pretty cool. The other one I have, I think it's appeared in another video. It's in just worse condition overall. Really nice to have one of these, just as a better condition version. Next up, we have this. This is the Tired Face Edward. I ended up getting another one of these for about $3 and then reselling it for about $30 down the track. Matching serial numbers. Face in very good condition. Overall, this item is in very good nick. Which is a bit of a trend. I tend to buy items that are in either okay, great condition, or just terrible. Next up, we have the gold magnet version. I passed on a boxed one a long time ago for $25, and I feel like an idiot now. Either way, this is really cool to have. Don't see too many of these floating around anymore. The gold magnets seem to have sort of dried up more and more as time goes on. Highly recommend trying to find Edward. I think he's a bit of a rarer one now. I think a lot of people just collect Edwards, like I do. That puts us at 3 more. This is the Tomy era, and while I do this, I'm going to go grab something else. So that is a Tomy era, and I'm actually kind of got a soft spot for this as well. It's just sort of weird, and I don't think we're going to be seeing too many of these floating around anymore. There's a couple online. I waited a long time to get one in this nick, but it's very nice to have. I believe it's matching serials. Yep. Very important for me sometimes. Really cool. That leaves us with 2. The Mattel era. Yeah, I had about 3 of these actually. I had 2 boxed. One of them I sold to a certain TWR Ryan 86. Because I picked up another one. In fact, that's in this box that you can't see. Magic Cereals, this was one I just took out of the box because I didn't think it'd be worth anything. And then it went up in value, so I feel like an idiot now. But, either way, really nice to have. Sadly, I don't have the next one that would have been really cool, which is the 2016 variant. But what I do have is this. Freshly imported, still has the fresh smell. It is the Wood Edward, which apart from the tender, which is a piece of shit, is actually pretty good. I mean, this is a very good wood item. I don't know how much longer, though, wood is going to be on the scene. That's not to say I don't like... I mean, I like this. This is very nice. In fact, I'd say if I had to pick my 3 favorite Edwards in order, it would probably be like this. 1992 V3, 2001, the Wood. They just all represent very nice things, I think. And they all bring things to the table. I like the design on this one. The tender is where it's let down. But by a similar token, I've been taking to coupling, I think another 1999 tender I have to this. And you know, it looks pretty good. I also keep this one with the original box, which I can just barely get in frame. Ooh. I also have another one boxed as well, in case I ever just want to sell this one, which I may do. I think it's definitely one to watch out for. I don't know what they're doing with the wood range, so pick up as many of these while you can. Now, it's time for Henry. Okay, and we're back. I've got my variants guide up, so now I'm able to tell you with complete certainty what I'm talking about. So, let's get started with this. This is, I believe, let me check before I put it up in front of the camera. This is a 1996. I believe that this is a V1. So this is a 1996 V1. You can tell because there's the larger protruding magnets. That's pretty much it. I mean, it's actually in very good nick. This was from the lot of engines I mentioned last time when I was talking about Edward. It's very cool. A lot of my Henrys are in okay condition. This is probably one of the better ones. Really cool. I do quite like it. It's quite a nice character. Henrys tend to be fetching a lot more nowadays. Why? I can't tell you. I honestly have no clue. But his value has definitely been going up a fair bit. I think it's just because he's one of the characters you just never see nowadays. In saying that, I did have someone ask if the old styles were rare. Honestly, I see less new styles. But that's something that's just got to be debated, I think. This is a pretty rare variant, what you're about to see. Because this is a 1997 Variant 1 with the small magnets and 1997 wheels. You don't see a hell of a lot of these. I think in my variants guide that I had before the one I have up right now, this might have been the only one that I'd ever seen with this variant. It's just... You see a lot of 97s with 1996 magnets, but you don't see a lot of 96s... No, you see a lot of 97s with these... Wait. I'm a bit kerfuffled. Hold up. Oh, wait. No. I've just been kerfuffled. This is actually not that rare at all. This is a 1997 with 1996 magnets. Yeah. Okay, so you do see a fair few of these. I think I meant the 97 with... No, the 96 with 97 magnets is a hell of a lot rarer than this. So this is the less... I think they're still pretty rare, though. You don't see these too often. Usually you see them on the newer items from those years, like Skarloey, Sahandel, Peter Sam even, from 97. They tend to be more common to have this variation than something like a Henry. This is kind of bizarre. After that complete kerfuffle, I will move on to this. This is a 1997 as well. But this is a V3. It has the plastic funnel. Somewhat of a common variation, probably 1 and 2, probably half of the 97s have it. A lot less with the with conventional magnets also exist. So the V3 and the V2 of this are pretty common, but the V1, which I just showed you, and the V4, which has the smaller magnets, are less common. That's just because you see a lot of these, but the other ones are a bit more bizarre variations. This is a 1998. I believe this is a V2. This is a V3. So the V3s had these plastic funnels, which were carried over from 97 models. 98 wheels. This is not the original tender, so I can't tell you if they had plastic coal as well. I think from looking at my guide, they didn't. That could be subject to change if someone finds a boxed one sealed with that certain variation. Either way, really cool. Let's move on to the final three, actually. So up next we have this, which is a 1998 Henry. It is the Sad Face Henry. Yeah, I've showed this one off before. He was the thumbnail of one of my videos, but he's really, really cool. I'm actually quite a big fan of him. The tender is non-original. I mean, trying to find a 1998 tender that has the 1997 variation, that would be a 1998 V2 tender. Not easy, partly because I think most of them were sold with this. So trying to find one of those is really quite a needle in the haystack. This is just a 97. The color doesn't quite match, but you know, I can't be a chooser. Moving on, we have these two. So this is a 1998 as well. This is a V4. So you have the traditional, well, the realistic funnel and realistic coal. This tender actually has a bit more of a myriad history than the item itself. I got this years ago when I didn't even have an old style Henry. Or if I did, it was a really poor condition 1996 one. But yeah, I got this tender and it was just immaculate, but no Henry. Well, now I have a couple of 98 Henrys, so that's a good thing. I actually have three. So I ended up having a spare one of these tenders. Don't worry, it wasn't the one I chopped up for the Edward. That was a 2000 James one. Next up, this is a 2001 Henry. I actually have a nice habit of trying to get these versions. This is a 2001, I believe this would be a V2, because it uses the traditional font style that became standard. The typography type, the V3 and the V4 use non-standard typographies. A really cool item. I'm actually really happy to own one of these. Again, it was a case where I got the tender, then I got the item. And funnily enough, I actually could say this is the final Henry I own, because I actually don't own anything later than this. This is just a generic mid-2000s Henry. I got this as a kid, and I know for a fact that Henry and Douglas, I think, were the two characters I did not have for the longest time. It wasn't someone obscure like Oliver. It wasn't someone like Donald and Douglas. It was just Henry and Douglas. I mean, Douglas makes sense, but Henry kind of proves how rare this bloody thing is. I'd actually go so far to claim that Henry is rarer than Edward. That's mainly because you just see less Henrys. Especially because, considering this is my latest, I've only ever found 2 of this style of Henry, as opposed to the rest of the other mid-90s, early 90s versions. So with Henry's out of the way, let's move on to Gordon's. So, let's get back into it. Now, I don't know if the variants thing's going to work. If you guys are interested, I'll keep doing it. Otherwise, I don't know. The variants thing that I'm talking about is somewhat interesting to me, and it's something that no one talks about. I think it needs to be talked about because a lot of these variants are quite rare. Moving on. We have this version of Gordon. Funny story about this version. So this was a 1994. It's just a standard 94. I paid about $50 or so for this. By the time I resold the rest of what was in the lot, it was probably about $25. This was actually in Australia. I mean, 1994s in Australia are not that common. They're a very rare find. This is just your standard 1994 though, so you're looking at a V... I'm not sure about the pupils. It could be I'm pretty sure though it's a V3. I'd probably go as far to say it's a V3. Maybe a V2. I mean, it's either a V3 or V4. The V4's had shorter funnels, so it's a really hard one. But either way, really cool item. Really happy to have it. Again, just something that's really weird to shop in Australia in a lot. I asked if they'd separate the Gordon, they said no, and I went, you know what, fuck it, I'll just buy the whole lot. It was literally just a bunch of other generic shit. Moving on, we have this, which is a 1996. I believe it's just a... yeah, it's a V2. So V2 1996, not much really to say about it. You've seen this sort of style before. Quite a big fan of Gordon. However, I think he definitely got better as time went by. Next up is a 1997. I believe this is just your conventional V2. Yep, V2 because there's the wooden funnel. Not really much to write home about here either. It's just your standard 1997 Gordon. I like 1997s. I think I got this one as part of a two-piece lot that I won a while back, about $100. Had so much good stuff in it. Probably about 50-60 of the older style characters. Loved it. Next up we have, is this another? Oh wait, no, this is a pretty rare one. So, this is, yeah, actually this is pretty rare. This is a 1998, but this is a V1 1998. So you have the conventional style magnet, but you have the wooden funnel. Not a very common variation. Probably the only one rarer than it from that year is probably the 1998 V2, which I mentioned in the Henry part. Either way, definitely something to look out for, and I really am quite a big fan of it. Next up we have these two. I believe this is a 1999 Gordon. A V2, I believe. Yep. With the tender colon, whatever. So this I picked up from a lot near where I live. With a bunch of, a lot of it was shredded, but it was really interesting shredded stuff. And I just couldn't resist. I mean, it was a fairly decent lot. I think it gave me my Muffled Mountain, I want to say. No, it just gave me the gold piece of track and some other bits and bobs. It was a pretty cool lot for what it was worth. You don't see a lot of wooden stuff around in lots much anymore that are cheap, and this was a $40 lot, and I went, you know what? Why the hell not? He's not in great nick, but you know, it's whatever. The tender actually was in worse condition. This is a replacement I got from my dealer. Links in description as usual. And finally we have this 2001 Gordon from Thomas Trent Exchange, about $20 item. I ain't complaining. You don't see too many of these. This is the same V as the Henry, so V1, V2 I mean. Really cool to see. Quite like this. If I had to pick a Gordon for my layout, it would be this one. Next up, we have your standard, whoa, 2000s Gordon. This is a 2004 or 3 Gordon. This was actually my first ever Gordon. Yeah, he has seen better days, but I am quite a big fan of him. Tender as well. Yeah, just these just were shredded. I'm not going to bring them in because I just did a video on them. If you want to check them out, I'll put it in the description as well for the better view for Gordons. So, if you want to check that out, that's down there. One of them is my childhood one. One is one I recently acquired. Moving on from that. Bugs. We have this. This is actually something I don't see too often either. This is a Tomy era Gordon. I actually picked this up in a lot from an op shop near where I live. It was just a weird lot. It had this, a Hector, and that was basically it. So, very odd lot. Not complaining. I mean, these are not common. I don't think I even have a Tomy era James. In fact, I don't really have too many Tomy eras. Only a Thomas. Thomas is boxed. A Thomas, an Edward, a Gordon. I believe that's it. And finally, we have something that's quite cool, actually. This is a 2016 small-faced Gordon. Something I think is definitely going to rise in value. This is a pretty rare variant. Last year. So finding these is not easy. Mine is not matching serials. It's close. It's literally one number off. So I think I'd be able to get away with selling it without anyone really giving a shit. Either way, it's really cool. Definitely would recommend searching these out, or if you find some, just hold on to them. I can't really say what will happen to value. So that's the three big ones out of the way. But I figure for the rest of this video, we're going to talk about a couple of ones I have smaller variants of. In fact, we'll wrap this video up with some somewhat cooler ones. So I'll be right back. Hello everybody, Future Me here, and I just wanted to say, I'm an idiot. I thought I mentioned James at the beginning. I didn't record a part for it. So that's what I'm doing now. This is being recorded pretty much, basically going to be about 30-40 minutes before the video goes up. So, very fresh in my mind. So I don't actually have that many older Jameses. I only have two. Starting off with this. This is a 1996 V1 with the large round magnets. Wooden funnel. This one's in amazing condition. Just pretty much damn perfect. This was part of the same lot the Edward I mentioned last night from 1994 with the from 1995 where this magnet came from. It was a really good lot. It included 1 to 7. I know 1 to it's just 1 to 5. Really awesome. I really quite like this James. The face is pretty good. Next up we have a 1998, I believe. Oh no, 1997. V3, because that's the plastic funnel. Really cool item. Don't see too many older Jameses, They're just a bit more a bit rarer than anything else. Case in point, this, which is, I believe, a 2000 James? Yep, 2000 James. So, I actually have a fair few old style Jameses. I have 3 of this style and only 2 of the older ones. I think that's just partly because I just honestly don't really search out Jameses. And you don't see too many of the older ones. That's the main thing. So this is just your standard 2000. There's no variations available for 2000 because they either will look like 99s or they'll look like 2001s. Unless they have a name on the bottom, which I've never seen. But what I have seen is something that's not on the table. Here is my James Goes Buzz Buzz. Face is worn a bit. I do actually have something to fix that eventually, but not at the moment. This is a 2000 example, so not the gold dome. I paid about $30 for this a while ago. Very good condition. I am quite a big fan of this item. There's the gold dome version as well, but I'm less interested. This is honestly enough for me. Finally, we have this, which is the late 2001 variant with the... Oh, I know, this is just a 2001 variant. So I actually have 3 of these from 2001. There's this one, a gold dome, and actually a V1, which is pretty rare, which has the no name on the bottom. 2001s without a name are few and far between, and something I definitely recommend searching for. I've only ever found a James and a Thomas in this theme, but I don't doubt the rest of the characters would exist as well. My favourite variant of James is by far the gold dome version. I think this just looks and it captures James perfectly. I would not change a single thing. This item is perfect. I would highly recommend trying to get one of these. They are becoming a bit rarer as time goes on, but they were pretty cheap for a while. Especially ones with the gold dome still intact, like this one. Really cool. That leaves us with 3. This is just your standard 2003 James. I have a couple of these, actually 2. The other one's with a set that I haven't reviewed yet. Very cool. Just a mid-2000s example. Nothing really rare about it. These are a dime a dozen, honestly. I have about 8 of these tenders because I was doing a project that failed. But, honestly, if you have one of these Jameses, you're in the majority. You're not in the majority if you own one of these, though. This is a couple of things, but what's really interesting about it is this. If you've watched my previous video, a video I did a while ago about codes, you'll know that this code here is the lead paint code. And this James was part of the recall. So what I've got here is a lead paint version James. Now, looking at it, it's actually pretty easy to tell it's lead paint from a normal one, partly because of this darker color. It's interesting how they differentiate it that way. Whether this was intentional or not, I'm not sure, but this is definitely a lot duller, and it's definitely not just dulled over time. This I received in a lot. I also have this other version that's non-lead paint. So, either way, these are really cool. Especially the lead paint version. It's just something you don't see every day. And I would highly recommend searching out these versions, because I think they're going to become a bit collectible as time goes on. So with that out of the way, now let's actually get into the final two characters after this faff. So to wrap the video up, I thought I'd just go into a couple of cooler items that I don't really talk about. Both these are actually outdated already, because I know I have one of each coming. But we'll get into it anyway. And today we'll be talking about just the male coaches. I mean, what's really interesting about my male coaches is they actually do, for the most part, reflect their age. What do I mean by that? Well, this is my 1995 one. This was on American eBay for about 30 shipped. So I started to pounce on it. I'm surprised no one else did. I mean, condition is terrible, but this is a V1 male coach. So it's the shorter version with a thinner front, I'm pretty sure. It looks a bit odd next to the rest of mine, but I'm not complaining. And it is a bit worn, but again, I paid basically nothing for it. On a similar token, here is a 1996 male coach. In better condition, definitely. I can't quite remember. I think this got this from TWR Ryan. I think it was about $80, which I definitely overpaid for. But that was when I was dumb. Now I am enlightened in the ways of Thomas Wooden Railway. As such, the next one, which I also coincidentally got from TWR Ryan 86, was actually for a trade. This is just a damn fine male coach. Loving the darker grey roof, and it's a 2001. This is a somewhat rarer male coach. To wrap this up, we have the male cars as well. So we have these two, which are just the basic post. Oh, they got the same serial number. That's cool. Yeah, these are just the ones that would have been post the lead paint crisis, which is all right. Very cool items. If it's sold like this, I probably would have bought more. But these are pretty rare items now. I mean, I remember buying these when they were still pretty plentiful. Because these were given away, I think, for free when you got your lead paint sent back. Or sent back lead paint items. Because I think one of these is my original. Nowadays, they're just not common. I mean, the two I have, I paid $30 for one. And the other one was obviously free. But there were a fair few up for a long time. And then they've all seemed to drop off the face of the earth. I'm really quite happy to have these. I plan on using them on my branch line trains, because they add a little bit more variety. I've also got another male coach coming. I believe it's a 97, which will add to my train and probably make me call quits on male coaches for a while. I don't need that many. The final item is the Chinese Dragon, of which I have 3. So first up is this, which is a 1994 first edition. In very good nick. I have another one in a box. The Chinese Dragon is just one of those characters I love collecting because he's so damn weird. I mean, he's just the darndest thing, to be honest. I am quite infatuated with him. He's a very nice looking item. Moving on from that, we have this, which is the 2002 example. Not my childhood one. That one's currently residing in the box this came in. This was an import from the United States. And I am quite a big fan of this one as well. I feel like the Chinese Dragon in this original form just looked right. And finally, we have the re-release. I got this from my dealer. Links in the description. I think just you can move the face up and down. It just doesn't have the charm of the original, although it is arguably a hell of a lot less creepy. So, there's that trade-off. Either way, I actually kind of like this. Really cool sort of re-release. Which completes today's video. So thank you all very much for watching. Yes, it's long. It's probably going to end up being about 30-ish minutes like the last one. And it is a slow way to look at my collection, but it is the way I like to do things. So thank you all very much for watching, and enjoy the rest of your days.